It has been a really long time. What's going on, guys? Welcome to I don't know what episode. I don't know what episode. Screw it. Episode maybe 8, 7. It'll pop up somewhere on the screen of Warmup Wednesday. Today we are going to talk about running, not specifically running. Something happened a couple of days ago. We had did a podcast, and I kind of went off on this rant about how we need some essential warm-ups, essential warm-up exercises specific for runners. We don't have those. And I think it's really, really key. For those of you who know me, you'll know that I'm a big time warm-up guy as per this series on YouTube. It's basically just warm-up stuff, but I think it's super important. Warm-up is really where you make it or break it. Like a lot of people don't understand that if you're not warming up, before I say that, warming up is potentially make it or break it. What I think is more important is that you potentially understand what I mean by make it or break it. I don't necessarily think that warm-ups themselves are the end-all be-all. I don't think they're the end game of it, and I don't think that's like where it starts and finishes. What I think of, and when I consider warm-ups, it's really just corrective exercises done pre-run. The reason why we do these corrective exercises pre-run is simply to make sure that when you are about to run, you're going to be in the least likely position and posture to hurt yourself. Because that running is basically one of those exercises where you just repeatedly move, and then at some point your body develops this kind of this kind of compensation, and it really goes unnoticed because it's so small and so slight, and it's so minute and detailed that you don't even notice it's actually happening until it's too late. Then you start developing this pain, and your mind almost thinks, or you start convincing yourself that, maybe the pain is just from the fact that I ran today or hadn't run in a while. You start coming up with a bunch of excuses, but what really is probably happening is you started off in the wrong position, or you probably weren't strong enough to stay in that right position long enough. So the proper warm-up, or what I like to do, is more like an activation. So mobility and activation is really just a bunch of corrective exercises that are gonna help you almost get in the right position, stay in the right position. These are the essential running warm-up exercises that I think you should do. Let's get this going. I just looked down because there's a list right here of all the exercises. I just dropped it in front of me so I would remember exactly which ones I filmed for this thing, because obviously I'm not gonna start firing them off in my head because I'm gonna miss a couple. Anyway, let's get this going. So exercise number 1 is a 90-90. This is a basic, it's not a basic, it's basic. It could be harder, you can make it easier. So what this exercise really does is it allows you to get a good understanding of how much movement you have on each side of your hip. Now, if you turn to one side, you notice a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more restricted than if you were to do it on the other side. That would be an indicator that you might be lacking some mobility or some movement capacity under control, obviously, on one side as opposed to the other side. This could potentially be one of the reasons why you're constantly in pain, or why you always have these ailments that are always coming up, these injuries that are always happening. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you are never hurt or you're always hurt that it's because of this, this could be something could be happening, but this is just a good indicator and a great way to be able to test that out. And at the same time, you are opening your hip up to that internal external rotation, which is something we don't usually do in the day when we are seated at a desk or seated in a chair, driving, what have you. The second exercise is a frog. Now, this is a basic exercise where you get into a nice quadruped position, you bring your knees out a little bit wider, and you just start opening up one side and then dropping it back down and opening up the other side. What we're doing here is actively trying to create some internal rotation. So you're actually taking it and taking your leg, taking your thigh, and really cranking it inwards and getting that internal rotation. Again, most of us struggle because we're so tight externally, because we always walk with our feet out. We're really tight in the hips. That's why when we do like that pigeon stretch where you cross your leg and you stretch, it's always really, really sore. This is allowing us to really kind of create some looseness and really be able to get the internal component under control, and that's really a really important mobility capacity or capability that you really want to have when you are running. And of course, the hip flexor stretch. Now again, this is not an exercise I'm going to do statically, so I'm not going to hold and stretch it. What I'm going to do is get into that position, slide forward, and really drive through that hip by sliding my arm across the ground. What that's doing is that's allowing me to stay in the same position the whole time. It's like a nice thing I do. I don't know why I do it. I just do it. I feel like it helps me kind of guide into that position by sliding my hand across the ground. When I do that, I'm allowing myself to go deep into the stretch. I'm engaging the core, and then from there, I lock into my end range and I start reaching up to really start exposing the anterior portion of my core and my hip to really stretch out anything that might be tight in that area. This is especially a great stretch for people that spend a lot of time seated, because you spend so much time tight at the hip, you don't have that mobility, you want to gain it. This is where you get it from, really getting that hip to open up and stretch out. Number 4 is ankle cars. Ankle cars are a great exercise that you can use on a very daily basis. The reason why we go through these, I go through this ankle car thing, is basically just, you're just controlling your ankle, you're locking your bone in place, you're locking the shin bone in place, and what you're doing is just cranking that ankle around. By constantly doing that and basically getting that full range, you're actually doing 2 things. You're creating range and you're discovering where your limitations are. You may discover that you may have kind of a block in one area, and that block could be preventing your foot from really properly moving on the ground. If you notice that you have a block on one side but not on the other side, you may have a restriction there. You may want to get that checked out. This is a good time for you to really get some professional help on that issue, because if that bone is not structurally loose and able to move, you're going to be stuck in that position. You're not going to be able to be landing properly. That was not English. You will not be able to be. That's not even, I don't know what it is with that. I got caught on that. You will not be able to land properly, and your foot will come in contact with the ground in the wrong position. It will not be able to absorb it. That's going to be where the knee, hip, back pain could be stemming from. So before you do any other stuff up at the top of the hip, get that ankle thing fixed out, because this is going to be really, get that ankle thing checked out. This ankle movement is really important, being able to really free up that bone. Exercise 5 is bear sits. Basically, you're on your hands and knees. You're dropping to sit your heels, or sit your butt to your heels. What we're doing with this stretch is really trying to maintain that nice flat posture in the spine. If you're able to maintain that flat posture, you will be much more likely to not have back pain, because you're going to be able to dissociate the hip movement, so the leg moving, from that low back. Your sacrum or your pelvis is not really going to have to adjust and move around to be able to make up for that movement that's happening up at the hip. It's really going to free your hip up to allow for a nice flexion and extension, which is the most important thing when you are running. Exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exercise 6 is an ankle knee drive. So basically, get yourself into a nice kneeling position, one knee up, one leg, one knee up, one knee down on the ground. And from there, what you're doing is you're driving your knee straight in to the wall. What you're trying to do is keep your heel on the ground and try to reach and try to touch your knee up to the wall. You may notice when you're doing this exercise that you may struggle going straight through. You're gonna look to see how your bone really moves around in that socket and see if it's actually able to kind of head in different directions, touch the wall. If you have any restrictions there, again, if you feel like you have one, this might be a great time for you to see some professionals to get that ankle looked at. Now is when we start getting into the activation stuff. So this is exercise 7. I think I dropped my paper. Exercise 7 or 8 or whatever it is, the number's gonna show up here. Counter's probably on the side. Exercise 7 or 8 is a dead bug. Dead bug is basically one of my favorite go-to exercises to activate the core. What we're doing is we're getting our body to get into that nice core position on the ground. We're doing an opposite movement. So our legs driving down, the other hand's coming up. This is very similar to running. We're getting that body to start moving one side and the other. We're trying to separate each side from each other and allowing our body to really understand how to keep that posture and keep that core strength there, that core integrity, and allow the legs and the arms to move independently of each other, and we don't have to really rely on the other side. So I love doing this exercise with my hand pinned against my knee. The reason I do that is to really help me do 2 things. 1, engage the core. 2, keep myself honest. If my knee starts driving down, I'm gonna notice my hand is coming either off my knee or my arm is gonna be reaching out to go further down. And then as I start bringing my leg back up, it's gonna start coming closer and closer and closer to me. This is gonna keep me honest and make sure that I can pull and separate them and go in different directions. You don't want both legs having to kick back to be able to just push and propel yourself forward. You wanna be able to have that nice separation. That's where your power and that's where your ability to generate power is really gonna be coming from. Now, the single leg hip bridge is one of my favorite exercises. This is a key exercise for being able to really generate some hip extension. Getting that knee up, driving that leg down into the ground, and really trying to create that explosive power that's allowing you to propel forward. If you're able to do this exercise and really generate some power, propel yourself forward, this is where all the benefits are gonna come from that you're really looking for with that power generation. So the last two exercises really are where a lot of that power is coming from. You're able to generate power backwards, and you're really able to control your leg dropping down. So you're getting a lot of those important factors in. So you're getting that knee drive, that leg kick back. So it's basically putting your body through that nice posture and allowing you to move your legs. This is where the basic fundamental movements in your run are coming from. Really, really important exercise to master. You're gonna love this for the hamstring, great for the glutes, gotta get those muscles activated. You need them for your runs, so definitely keep them in there. And finally, one of my favorite exercises is the elastic side to side. So basically, this is a simple exercise where you take a mini band, you can take one of those tube elastics, tie them up. You're just trying to create some pressure from the outside in so that you're gonna force out against it. Gets the really important hip stabilizer muscles going. That incorporated with a nice, good foot posture that we didn't really talk about, but I have mentioned it on another episode. If I haven't, I will be posting it after this because I'm gonna forget this, and it's important. And if it doesn't, we're gonna link forward to it. It's gonna be the next episode. And if it wasn't, it's gonna be a past episode. If it was a past episode, it's gonna be linked right up here. So, great exercise to get those hip activation, important hip stabilizer exercise muscles activated for your runs. That's really important in making sure that your knee is going front and back and not side to side. We want to prevent that knee from diving inward. That knee dives inwards, you're going to be creating pain, you're going to be losing power, and your runs are going to suck. So to prevent that from happening, get this hip stabilizer going, make sure it's well connected with the foot and the foot posture, and I promise you that your power will go up. You'll be a lot more stable when you run, and you will generate a lot more power. Again, these are just the really important exercises that I like. These are my fundamental running exercises. If you have to pick between them because you don't really have enough time to get these all in, I would tell you if you can get one set in of everything, that would be the bare minimum. If not, you have to pick and choose. Grab a couple from the start, grab a couple from the end, the activation exercise and some of the mobility exercises. Mobility is gonna be in green, activation is gonna be in red. You're gonna see them with the numbers. And I promise you, I should probably pick different colors. Activation is gonna be in white. No, mobility is gonna be in white, activation is gonna be in green. It was very Christmassy, I don't know why I did that. Anyway, you're gonna get those exercises done. Pick a couple from the front, pick some from the back end, put them together, and that's gonna be your warm up. But if you can, fundamental exercises, get them all in, get them in daily. Don't just do them for your run days, get them in daily, and I promise your runs will improve. These are great corrective exercises. For other workouts or for little routines that you want to do for your runs, definitely check out my Instagram page, which will be linked right down here below. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down there. I hope I pointed to the right side. And hopefully we will get this, I will try my best to keep this Warm-Up Wednesday segment going. I'm gonna start punching through those Functional Fridays and start showing you some corrective stuff. And yeah, let's just get this thing going. Until that next time, guys, see you later. That's the outro for my podcast. I'll see you guys next Wednesday.